And welcome back to Chalk Talk here on SteelersDepot.com. I am Alex Kazor, and I'm very happy to be back doing videos back in school. So I had to take a winter break off, didn't have any equipment myself, so I'm back in school like we did last year, back doing some videos. And of course today, as you can tell, we are talking about the upcoming NFL Combine. And just for something to look at, here's the schedule for the week in case you have not seen it. Friday, kickers and punters, offensive linemen and tight ends. Saturday, the skill positions, quarterback, running back, wide receiver. Sunday, defensive linemen and linebackers. And then to round things out, the defensive backs on Monday. And I know the Combine has become such a marquee event. It's kind of crazy to think about how important and how that main stage event has become in such a short amount of time. And I'm not going to give you probably any brand new information today, nothing that you haven't heard of or couldn't hear elsewhere before, but it's always good to have these reminders about what the Combine is and what it isn't and what are the important things to take away from the NFL Combine, because I feel like every single year some people fall into that trap of either falling too much in love with the NFL Combine and kind of missing what it really means. We talk about what the Combine means. I've always said the two most important things are the interview process and then the medical testing. And those are obviously two things that us as fans or the media do not get to really see. The interview process, each team gets 15-minute interviews with players. It's a rotational basis this early part in the week as players make their way to Indianapolis. And then the medical is really important as well in terms of getting that first solid medical report on a player. You talk about going back to the interview process, what it means for players that might have some off-the-field issues. You look at Marcus Peters out of Washington or Dorial Green-Beckham, guys that fell between the cracks, and Peters got kicked off his team, obviously, and you guys kind of know the story with that. This is the first time you get to sit down and talk with the man and talk about what happened and get his side of the story. A lot of speculation right now. We don't know what's truth. We don't know what's made up and things like that. So this is the first time you really get to sit down and talk to the guy and try to figure out his backstory and learn about the character of a man. Look him in the eye and see if you believe what he's saying. Because again, you're drafting people, not just positions, and you got to be able to trust them as a person. So you learn a lot about that. It's only 15 minutes as part of the process. You go to their pro days, you can bring them in for pre-draft workouts and continue to talk to them there, but it's a nice first step for guys that you've only been speculating about what their character is. You got to talk to the man. The medical, this is really important. It's the first solid, reliable medical report that you've ever had on these guys, especially for the guys that have the big injury issues. You talk about Wambabe Adigizua, the guy that's coming off the major hip surgeries from 2013. You want to check those out. Cedric Aboihi, torn ACL, he suffered recently. You want to check on the rehab of those guys that have current injuries. See how they're progressing, see if they're on schedule or ahead of schedule, or if there might be complications, or figure out just the exact nature of the injury itself. Was there other damage to the ACL, or was it just a clean tear? In the NFL draft, reading some comments about guys that have been in the Combine before, they are pretty thorough with it. They don't leave any stone unturned. So you have guys that have the current injuries, guys that had surgeries in college and were dinged up then, and guys that got injured in high school too. I think of Trey Waynes, a guy that had a shoulder injury his senior year of high school, a guy that broke his leg in high school. I'm sure that stuff's going to get checked out as well to see what the injury was there, how did it heal, things like that. So they're very, very thorough in this process. They don't want to leave any stone unturned because it's a big investment, and so you want to learn everything about the player. When we talk about the Combine, I think the good phrase to use is we use this to verify, not to determine. We don't want to just take the 4.4 40 the guy ran and say that's how fast he is, because you just don't know for sure. Does that show up on tape? If he runs a 4.4 in the 40, does he run a 4.4 on tape? Or is he faster, or is he slower? And if he doesn't run well either, does he run faster on tape many times? You have to remember things like the 40, they're not exactly, things you're going to see on Sunday. Unless you show me a receiver who shows up in a sprinter stance and holds a 3 count and then he comes off the line, then if that ever happens in the NFL, that's the first time I'll see it. Those aren't always realistic things, and there's sometimes little mini advantages that players will get that makes them better or worse at these things. If you're a great track athlete, you did it in high school, maybe you did it early in college, you're used to that sprinter stance, and you're a little bit better of coming out of your stance and being explosive and not popping up out of your stance. If you've never done that before, if the first time you lined up in a sprinter stance was training for the Combine, you're probably not going to be as good at it, and your numbers are going to be a little bit worse because of it. So that's why you always go back to the tape. You don't want to take the Combine information and use that as your sole evaluation. Tape doesn't lie. You use that when in doubt as your guide. You always use the tape. You don't want to get too high, too low on these guys, kind of bouncing off from that. If a guy does really well, that's great, but you don't want to get so caught up and infatuated with that you forget about everything else. And if a guy doesn't do so hot, you don't want to forget about the tape he put on either. Maybe he has really good tape out there, but he doesn't do that well at the combine. Doesn't mean you should totally ignore a guy or drop a guy that much just because he didn't test well in shorts and a t-shirt. You don't want to get too high or too low on these guys. But as a caveat, if we understand what the combine means and we are able to keep that perspective, then we don't want to get scared of the combine either. We don't want to be on either extreme. We don't want to fall in love with the numbers too much or shy away from the numbers too much either. You want to have that balance. The combine is important. It does have value. It's part of the puzzle in this makeup whenever you try to evaluate a player. But as long as you can keep that perspective and not be too high or too low on a guy, you can see the combine numbers for what they're worth and put that in the puzzle. And so when you go to make your final evaluation, you're using all the information instead of just cherry picking or singling out 1 or 2 bits of information. The one thing I think it is really important for are the small school guys. It gives them a level playing field they typically haven't had. Whenever you see a guy at the FCS, maybe even D2 level, do well, if he looks fast, is that because he truly is fast, or is that because the level of competition around him wasn't that great? This is a great time to actually have empirical data that shows this matched up against guys from the biggest schools, LSU, Alabama, you guys know. So that's a nice opportunity to have to show them against this finally balanced competition that's level, and the numbers are all relative for the first time in a small school kid's life. So is the kid from Eastern Washington as fast as the kid from LSU? These numbers will help give you a better indication than what you had going off for the tape because of the competition issue. And the last thing I think is really important to talk about, we talk about the 40 times and the broad jump and the vert and things like that, and again, those things have some value, but I love the drills more than the actual tests. Pay attention to those too. Those might not get the immediate fanfare, but watch these guys after they go through their actual tests. Watch the cornerbacks in the weave drill. Do they sit low in their pedal? Are they explosive out of their stance? You can kind of learn about some of those things. In some of those drills where they got to go catch the football, can they track the ball well? They fluid in their turn, things like that. Watch the offensive lineman in their kick slide drill. Are they explosive out of the stance? Do they keep low, sink their hips, bend their knees? Do they look good laterally? In the mirror drill that they have, can they mirror? Are they out of control though? Is their base too wide? Or are they quick feet and able to move in a straight line and mirror well while maintaining their base as well? Their running backs catching out of the backfield. It might be a small thing. A lot of college running backs don't have a lot of experience with receptions, catching out of the backfield. First time you might get a good look at them and see exactly how good their hands are. So I think the drills can be just as important, and if not more so, than the tests themselves. But again, just take everything, don't get too high, don't get too low, and just use everything as part of the evaluation, and always go back to the tape. Thank you guys for watching. Again, first series, so sorry if I was a little rusty. We're going to do a bunch of stuff during this off season. Obviously, we're not going to always do Chalk Talk, but I want to do some Chalk Talk too. I want to go back to the All-22, break some stuff down. If you guys want to see things specifically, let me know in the comments, because we're at a time now where I can kind of do whatever I want. We're not tethered to breaking down plays each week like we did before. We can do at combine stuff. We can do a wrap-up if you guys want that. We can do All-22 free agency stuff. I mean, we can have anything that you guys want to do, so let me know in the comments. Give me some ideas, because I'm not really sure what I'm going to be doing week to week like I was before. So if you have an idea, something you'd like to see, please let me know. And as always, thanks for watching here on SteelersDepot.com.